Hey, in today's video I'm going to show you everything you need to know in Affinity Photo to get started with this great photo editing software. Here I am in the program on desktop. So that's the desktop version on my Mac. I already drag and drop one picture here, and we're going to start by introducing all available tools in the toolbar on the left. The very first tool on our list, that's a pan tool. So this little hand allows us to pan the camera around. It's especially useful when you zoom in. So let me just try to do that. I'm going to zoom in without switching tools, simply using keyboard shortcuts. So I press Command on Mac or Control on Windows and then plus. You can use Command minus to zoom out. If you want the optimal level of zoom, you can press Command 0. Alright, so when you zoom in, you can use this pan tool to pan your camera around so you don't need to zoom in and out all the time. To be honest, I never use this tool. Usually, I even kick this out from my tool panel. Why? Because if you want to pan around, you can simply press and hold spacebar, and you will temporarily get access to that very same tool. When you release the spacebar, you jump back to the original tool you've been using. So it's not really very important to keep it here, and I do not recommend using it. It's better to just press and hold spacebar. The next tool on our list, that's the move tool. As the name suggests, the move tool allows us to move elements. So let me just unlock this layer in the layer panel on the right first. Alright, my image is unlocked, and now I will be able to scale it down and up using the move tool. I can move it around. We can use this for rotation and transformations. So move tool is for moving objects around. Now I need to undo. I can use Command Z, or I can use the history panel on the right to go back a few steps. Alright, next thing, we got two pickers. One is color picker. If I pick the color, it will show here in the color picker on the right, and it will also jump as my active color. So next time I use the brush or I try to draw a shape, it's in that very color, as you can see. There's also something called quick picker, that's on the right here. Simply press and hold and drag it on the color you like. You got it in your picker first. It's not active color yet, but if you click on it, it will jump as the active color. The second picker is for styles. We can pick and copy layer styles. To demonstrate that, I will need two elements here. I will go all the way down and search for the shape tool. Let's create two shapes. So simply drawing the shape now with the shape tool. If you need to maintain the proportion, press and hold Shift on your keyboard. So I got my triangle, and the second shape, that will be a heart shape. Alright, now I will select the triangle. You can click on the shape, or you can select the layer with the triangle from the layer panel on the right. Now we need to apply some layer effects. They are available here, this FX button. The pop-up window will allow us to apply effects. If you ever use photo editing software from different companies like Adobe, Photoshop, you will be very familiar with a similar panel. Alright, so as you can see, we can put some kind of 3D effects on it. We can add some shadow as well, so we can drop shadow. We got auto shadow here. We can put gradient on it. Reduce opacity, alright. So we apply some effects on this element. This heart shape here is without any effects. And let me just change the color as well. Alright. So this heart shape on the right is without any effects. Do we have to start over again applying the same effects here? No, we can just copy them. That's why we're going to use this Style Picker tool. Select the shape without effects, select the Style Picker, and now we simply pick the style, and here it is. Now I load this tool with the style, and I can keep putting this style on multiple elements if I like, or I can unload it and use it again as the picker. Alright, so we can very quickly use the Style Picker tool to transform styles, or the Color Picker tool to transfer just a color. Alright, the next tool on the list, that's the Crop tool. That's a rather intuitive tool. We can change the area of the image after you are done cropping. Don't forget to confirm your new size by clicking Apply at the top. Let's undo and try again. We can not only crop, but we can also add some rotation to it. And this is maybe a nice way to straighten your picture. There's even a straighten mode here when we can draw a line that will allow us to straighten to that very line. So if you see the horizon, you can use that straightening line to crop to that certain horizon. Okay, keep in mind we can use special modes. We can maintain the original ratio here, or we can type the custom ratio from keyboard. So we can make it 16 times 9 or 3 times 2 like right now, or 1 times 1. If you are happy with the result, click apply. If you are not, you can click cancel and you will go back to the original one. That was a crop tool. And now we are moving into selection tools. Selection tools are very important for raster editing program like this one, because normally you don't want to apply your effects, your filters on the whole image, right? We just want to select one area and apply special effects on that area. For example, you want to change the hair color, you must select her first. So that's why selection tools are important, and this one is the most intuitive one in my opinion. It's called Selection Brush Tool, and you can use that to select elements that share a similar color, but you can control that using brush-like tip. So we can change the size of this brush, can make it larger or smaller. We should actually zoom in a bit, and if you select like too much, like I did here, right? I select a bit of backdrop, change the mode. Now we are in the add mode. Go to subtract mode and try to subtract that area. And keep in mind, we don't need to use that exact selection. What I'm talking about, I can still refine it as the last step of my selection, and I highly recommend you to use the refine as your final step of selection every time. So I try my best to make a nice selection using this selection brush tool, and now I'm going to click refine. The program highlight what will be selected, and the area that will be not selected is with the red color on it. Now we can still inform the program that this is foreground, this is background. So if you select too much, you can switch to backdrop and try to touch the area that is a backdrop to let the program know we don't need this part. That's the mistake. We can also increase the border and let the program decide what the program thinks is a foreground and the backdrop in that range, based on the color and also sharpness of the object. Alright, let's click. Output will be a new layer of the mask. That's the safest way. Apply. And based on our initial selection, we create this new layer with that hand. So now we can manipulate this element from the original picture on the separate layer without affecting the big image. Alright, I don't need that layer, so let me just delete that by clicking the trash bin icon over here in the layer section. Let's go back to the left and explore more tools. The next one here look like magic wand. It's a very similar thing. You can click on the area with same color like this one, and it will be selected. Alright, Mark, but what if I want to select everything else? That's easy. We can always go to the top to select, and we can invert pixel selection. Now everything except that area is selected. So let's try to just press copy and paste on the keyboard. What will happen? Take a look. We got a brand new layer without this area. We can see the checkerboard here. So this one is gone. All right, let's delete this layer. This time I will drag the layer to the bin. And it's gone. Previously, I switched off the visibility of the original image. We can turn it on and off by clicking on that dot here. Okay. Next one is a freehand selection tool, also called lasso tool. And this tool allows you to select exactly what you need by moving the lasso around manually. So there's no help from the software, but we can use several modes. By the way, if you got selection like that on your project and you don't need that selection, stay safe. Unselect. Don't keep strange selections around. You can go to the top and decide to deselect. What I like to do is, when I don't need selection anymore, I press Command D. On Windows, it will be Control D. Deselect. Alright, so we got the second mode. So we got polygon, so we can make straight lines with this lasso tool. You can double click at the end to close the selection. Double click. Alright, and there's also the magnetic one that tried to snap to the contrast automatically for us. So for very contrasting area like here, we got those mountains and super bright burn sky. It's perfect for that. Take a look. We managed to select that with the lasso manually, and it's very precise selection. Nice. By the way, what will happen if with the selection I press delete on my keyboard? Take a look. We delete only that selected area. So it's gone now. But we can always undo. Command Z, Command Z. And remember, deselect, so also Command D. That's a really common mistake among my students. They create a selection, forget about it, then try to move to different tool like a brush, this, that, and they cannot use it. Because the tools can be used only inside the selection if there's active selection. So don't leave active selections around. Speaking of active selections, let's make another one using the shapes. So we got rectangular selection here. I will create a totally brand new layer now. So I'm going to click a new layer in the layer section on the right. All right, let's move to the next tool. Looks a bit like a bucket. With this tool, I will be able to fill this area with a color. Keep in mind, I was on the new layer, so it's affect only the selection without touching the original image below. So that's nice. Now let's try to use the next tool on the list, the gradient tool. In the very same area. I like Affinity Photo because we can live see the gradient. So even before I release my mouse, I can see the gradient. To modify your gradient colors, go to the top. You will see colors that are creating this certain gradient. And of course, we can add more colors, more than two. So just click on the line and add the third color. Feel free to move it around. All right, how about gradient type? We can make it linear. We can also make it elliptical. So like circle base. There's also a conical one over here if you need something like that. So that's the gradient tool. You can always switch it back to the solid color at the top. And we are back to the original color. Keep in mind, I was still on that selection and on the new layer, so I didn't affect the image. And that's my little tip. Use multiple layers in your project so it's very high editability. So that's my tip. Try to use multiple layers in your project so you can always remove stuff, recolor stuff without destroying important parts from your image. Let's get rid of that layer. We already know how. Click this trash bin, but as you can see, I didn't delete the selection. I need to deselect manually, Command D. All right, again, a new layer, so we can test the next tool. And the next tool is Paint Brush tool. As the name suggests, it's some kind of brush. We can modify the size of it using the slider at the top. We can select the color for that brush using the color wheel. If you prefer a different method of selecting colors, click on the hamburger menu. You can change wheel to sliders, for example. I like to use sliders. So I got hue on one slider, saturation on next one, and the brightness, the darkness on the last one. All right, so we got our brush here. Keep in mind, I paint on totally new layer. And with that, we are allowed to create a totally new composition using the brush, but we can change the brush tip as well. So we just move to brush panel here and take a look. Right now I'm in basics, but we can go to dry media. We can select chalk and get a nice texture on that brush. Totally different vibe. All right, so there's actually a decent selection of pre-made brushes for us. As you can see, now I'm changing the size of the brush without going to the width slider here. How can I do that? By pressing square brackets on my keyboard. All right, you can also control the opacity of the brush using the slider here. Opacity, the flow. You can turn on stabilization for your brush so it will be a bit smoother, but it will slow down the program a little bit. And keep in mind, there is also a wet edge turn on right now. It can be very handy for color distribution if you're doing something like watercolors, but in most cases you want to switch this off. Wet edge make brush a bit darker at edges. There are a few more options for us to play with, like direct blend mode from here. We'll talk about blend modes later in this video as well, so don't worry. And as I mentioned, you can change the opacity and the size of it all here at the top, so don't forget to modify your brush to match your needs. All right, I create this huge mess. Luckily, it's all on the separate layer, so I can just delete that without any worries. By the way, can you see this little brush icon on that layer? If I click on that, I can see history showing me which brushes were used on that layer. So I can quickly reselect some of those brushes and use the very same brush with very same size and settings. That's really cool. So if you working on the project and you use a lot of brushes, it's some kind of digital art, mixed media project, you can see it on the layer. So that's really helpful. All right, let's get rid of that layer. It's gone. And now we will be able to test another feature of the brush tool. We can actually turn on symmetry of the brush, and we got symmetry line. Take a look. Whatever I paint here, it paint on another side of the symmetry line. You can decide of having more than one. So I got two now, and this way you can create a symmetrical art as well. So it's here. Many people search for this symmetry mode, symmetry tool, what they want to see, but actually there's nothing like that in Affinity Photo. The only way to getting this symmetry thing is to turn on this feature on directly inside the brush tool. So it's here. Let's switch this off and take a look. I made a huge mistake now. I just paint on the original image. Luckily, there's the history panel here. So we can search for this step here, and I can jump back to that state of the project. Nice. What else do we have here? There's color replacement brush tool here, below the regular brush tool. This one will help you to recolor elements. For that, I suggest using basic brush. You must select a new color for that area. And this brush will try very hard to limit the area to the color that you are painting on. So if I'm painting on this arm here, you see that? The brush didn't allow me to paint the ground here. Unfortunately, this method is destructive. So I'm changing the original image and it's not super precise. So it's only recommend for really casual users, or if you got like some little element you need to recolor, something really tiny. Normally I would not recommend this tool. So let's undo. Okay, and there was one more thing, pixel tool. Pixel tool is a special version of the brush that make a 1 pixel line. We can make it a bit larger, so you can see it in this video, but this is for pixel art, for making straight pixel lines. It's sometimes called pencil tool in different software, but that's the very same thing. Alternative version of the brush tool. And I need to stop painting on that image because we need to undo in the history panel a lot. So let's make a new layer for ourselves above that, as I recommend before. All right, what's next? We got paint mixer brush, and to demonstrate that we need to put some paint on it. All right, so let's paint. And this is also a very specific tool, mostly for people involved with digital art. In that case, you can push the paint around. Take a look. I'm pushing the paint around, mixing the paint. Did you ever watch the Bob Ross videos? You know what I'm talking about. The good thing is you can turn on auto clean for this brush right now. In the past, it was not available. You must clean it manually all the time. Now I got auto clean. So if I got like 3, 5 colors, I will not move the wrong color to wrong spot by mistake. Just turn on auto clean. All right, so that's for mixing colors if you are somebody that uses Affinity Photo for digital art, because it's also possible, it's totally fine, and there's even an iPad version of the program that you can use with your Apple Pencil. So it's really nice experience for the digital artist. All right, let's jump back to the tool panel on the left. What's next? We got eraser tool. No surprise here. We're erasing part of the image. We're removing pixels, right? We got big hole now. Undo. A special version of eraser brush tool. And it's a bit hidden gem. Take a look. That's a background eraser tool. This brush tool will try to erase the element that cover most of your brush area. So if most of the brush area is on the mountains, now we try to remove the mountain. But if it's on the sky, it's really good experience. We can very quickly remove this sky. Take a look. I don't need to be precise at all. This brush is doing the job for me. So the key point for this brush is to point most of the brush, like 60%, 70% into the backdrop. And he will try its best to remove only backdrop. It's over here, not the standard eraser brush tool, but the background eraser brush tool. Very quick way to remove the backdrop. If it's rather simple like sky, like here, we got a solid contrast between foreground and background, and this brush will just make it very quick process. Unfortunately, you will be working on that very layer, so we make it a destructive remove right now. So it's gone. It's not just masked out, it's gone. So let's undo. So I got the original state of that image to present the next tool. Next tool is rather similar. This tool will detect the similar color and try to get rid of that. Bam. Bam. Very simple tool. Can be useful, but it's also destructive. Undo, undo, this time using the keyboard shortcut Command Z. You got 3 tools that usually come with the set, so we got Dodge, Burn, and Sponge tool for small little changes, and it's also all based on the brush-like experience, right? Something you may use to retouch your pictures. I suggest you to just try it out yourself. They're all 3 in the same group, and we're finally moving to the Stamp tool. So you got clone brush tool, when we can clone the elements of your picture and move it to the different area of the image. When you try to use it for the first time, you got this little warning thing. At first, you must pick up the pattern from the image. So I press Option, pick up the pattern first, and now my stamp tool is loaded with that pattern, so I can stamp it, stamp it, stamp it, stamp it around. Of course, each tool comes with those settings at the top. I already play with them with the brush tool, remember? You can change the size, opacity, flow, hardness. Hardness is the edge, is the blurry edge or stiff edge. Hardness 0%, it's very soft blurry edge. Hardness 100 will be very sharp edge. Take a look. Super sharp. Alright, we can also go into more to see exactly the details of our brush from this pop-up window. We can force pressure on the brush as well and change which layer are we painting on. And that's really cool because we can use the current layer, but we can also use the current layer and below or layer beneath. So we can actually create a brand new layer, and we will be still stamping from the layer below on that new layer. And this way we can turn this tool to be non-destructive because it's all on the separate layer. And this option was actually available for few tools we already tried. For example, the flat tool. Take a look. They ask us, source is the current layer or layer beneath. Layer beneath, even I'm on the layer at the top, I fill that area with the new color, but it's all on the layer above. So we can also play with the source of the tool if you are keen on keeping stuff undestructive. Alright, so a bit more advanced advice here. Alright, let's jump to the next tool. Next tool is Undo Brush tool. That's a strange name. So Undo Brush tool, so we can undo, but in the form of the brush. Almost like erasing this stuff. So we can control the area of undoing actions using the brush-like controls. Take a look. That's what we end up with, the original image. Alright, what's next? Next, we got Blur Brush tool. As the name suggests, in this tool we can blur the selected area. So we can apply the blur but using the brush. You can decide how big the brush is, and keep in mind you can always go back to your brushes and change the tip of the brush. Whatever tool you use, that is named brush. So eraser brush tool, the brush tool, healing brush, blow brush, you can change what is the tip of the brush as well. So don't forget that there's always option to create a very strange looking eraser tool with some texture grungy brush and erase it in that way. All right, what's next? We got sharpen brush tool, median and smudge. There are also options for us to use with our picture. Take a look, we are smudging, very popular among digital artists as well. We can push the paint around. And local sharpness. Alright, and we are finally at the bottom of the tool list in the healing area. In this healing area, we got several tools we can use to remove unwanted objects from our pictures. For that, I'm going to change my image. Alright, here I am on the next image. First, I'm going to select this layer and also unlock it. With the layer selected, I am ready to use some healing tools around. So let's try to get rid of this balloon using some healing tools. This time I'm going to start from the end. The last one is a red eye removal tool. This one simply reduces the redness in that certain area. So something you can use with some pictures that got the red eye effect. Not very common nowadays. It's when the light from the camera reflect on human eyes and get that's like this ugly red glow. All right, so it's here. We can still use it just by pressing on those red spots. It will desaturate the red color. In my case, that's not a thing because it's not a human picture. We got balloons on the sky here. So let's use the next one, Inpainting brush tool. This one, as the name says, it's also a brush tool. So there's so many different brush tools in Affinity Photo. That's good because we can learn how to work with brushes and then just switch between different versions of the brush tool. And this one allows us to mark the object we don't need. And then when you release, the program will try to evaluate the backdrop around and fill that area with that same content-aware fill. And it's gone. It's really good result. Next, we got Blemish removal tool. It's rather similar, but more suitable for like tapping on objects multiple times. Especially when someone got like pimples or some skin problems, we can use that. So this is the very same tool. If you keep tapping, the program will try to detect surrounding and fill it with a natural fill. So even with this balloon, after tapping, after a few tries, it's gone. All right. Next one, it's a patch tool. This time we got more control. We can select the area with the selection like tool, and now we can move the mouse, the cursor of the mouse around and search for this new texture ourselves. Just be sure to double click to confirm this new texture. And now we are moving to the very top, to the classic healing brush tool. When you try to use it for the first time, you got the same warning like the stamp tool. So we need to pick the source and then we can use it. We can keep healing with this tool and it will keep picking the source as well. All right. Good thing is now some of those healing tools can be used on the current layer, also on the current layer and below if you got your image split into several layers as well. All right, we are moving into a vector section of the program. So the next thing, that's the pen tool. Pen tool will allow you to draw shapes. So I can press, go back to the beginning, and we create a shape. We can fill this shape with color. And as you can see, I got a new layer with the shape on it, and this is the curve type of layer. So it's vector layer. That's allow me to recolor this whatever I need very quickly without losing any quality. The vector layer can be also scale up and down without losing quality as well. So you already saw what happened when you keep clicking. The pen tool make a straight lines like that. But if you approach this from different way, we can click and hold, click and hold, click and hold. You will make curvy lines. Alright, pen tool is a tool that you need to really try and practice yourself to fully understand how the lines will appear in your design, and that's what I suggest. Try it yourself. That's the pen tool, and if you mess up with the pen tool, you can use node tool to move those nodes, readjust those curves, add new nodes, remove the one you don't need, turn the sharp node like that into smooth one, turn the smooth node like this into sharp one. And that's the beauty of the vector graphics. We can always use the node tool to fix our mistakes, to modify our shapes. Alright, speaking of shapes, there's a proper shape tool. I already used that today. Take a look, there's so many different shapes, and some of them come with shape control points. So if we select this cloud tool, remember we can hold shift. If you select that, you see this orange point that allows us to modify this cloud to turn it into flower-like shape very quickly. We can use the top and search for more properties like bubbles. This way we can add more arms to it. So always explore how you can customize your shapes. You can even convert these shapes to curves. Why? Then you can use the node tool on it, this white selection tool we just learned about, and customize it even deeper. It's a bit more advanced. You need some basic understanding of vector graphics for that. Alright, as you can see, in my case, I cannot really see what is below that because my screen is rather small, 13 inches. So I got this little arrow showing me there are 3 more tools hidden there. But I don't want to use the program this way. So now I'm going to show you how you can customize your toolbar on the left to see all of the tools. That's something that I usually do, so let me show you. Go to View at the top, select Customize Tools. Now we see all available tools, and we can drag them in and out from the tool panel, but what is important for me, for the laptop user, is that I can turn on the second column. So now we got only 1 column, let's make it 2. So much more space. Alright, that's nice. I usually get rid of this hand tool completely, I don't need it. I like to add the separator for my vector tools. So my vector tools are here. I also like to split my pen tool and node tool, so I got them like separately. So I will get rid of this, and I will add the node tool as the separate tool. Alright, if you got any shape that you use a lot, like oval or rectangle, you can also drag it in. Nice, we can click close and we got our new customized tool panel now. So let's explore those remaining tools. There's a text tool. That's a rather simple to use tool. We just type the line of text. We can select this to modify the color or the font. If you need more settings, you can click this A for the character pop-up here when you can customize it even further. A very standard way of customizing the text. There's also another one for the drawing the text block when you can pull longer text. So let's insert some filler text first using text, insert filler text. And then you can play with that. You can change the size of it, color and font, and prepare text boxes in your design. Alright, as you can see, each text appears as the new separate layer, so I can easily move that around and modify. There is a mesh warp tool here for us with the perspective option as well. Then you can move the corners of your image to add the perspective to the whole composition. If you click apply, you will bake those changes. So let's undo. Mesh warp. You may think it's a bit similar, but actually it's more complex because we can add additional points by clicking around, and then you can warp them as you need. Click apply at the top, and you bake those changes into your artwork. By the way, if you are afraid of ruining the original artwork, it's good to duplicate the original layer. So right click, duplicate, and you can keep it down there, and you can even lock it using this little padlock icon. This way you know you got the original copy in the project. In case you mess up something, you can use that copy to borrow some pixels and fix what you mess up. Alright, seems like we cover almost everything in the panel on the left. The remaining tool is the zoom tool, and you already know I never use it. Why? I'm a bit old school. I like to keep my zoom tool on the keyboard, so Command plus, Command minus. If you are iPad user, simply pinch with your fingers. And then we got our colors that we can switch between. There's also transparency here if you need. And that will be our panel on the left with tools. But that's not all that the program got to offer, right? We still need to talk about what's at the very top. As you may remember, each tool will modify this area. So if I select the brush tool, this area changed. Now it's for me to modify and change the brush settings. So this area will be dependent on the selected tool in that very moment. But above that, we got personas. When the software was first released, personas was most like a kind of killer feature of Affinity. Persona allow us to change kind of the whole interface to align with the needs of the user. So by default, we are in the photo persona with all of those tools. So it's a bit like a Photoshop, right? The whole photo persona. We got tools on the left, layers on the right, color, top right corner, your artboard in the middle. That's the photo persona. The next persona on the list is Liquify Persona. If you click on that, you will see Liquify tool options that allow us to push pixels around. You can make them larger. Some girls like to overuse this one with the selfies, and the next one as well. We can push the pixels in. Take a look. I press and hold, and those pixels are move around. So Liquify Persona with several options here for pushing, pulling pixels. Keep in mind, protect your backdrop while you are doing that. This way you will not look so fake. You can even customize those tools further by adjusting settings on the right about size and hardness. If you are happy with your changes, you can click apply. The next persona on the list is the develop persona. This is the default persona for developing raw images from your camera. But not only. You can put a JPEG here like I just did. I switched to develop persona even with the regular image. As you can see, our tool panel is way smaller now. We are limited to just basic tools. But on the right side, we got more that we can work with related to colors and metadata. You can even got the location information, everything that is saved with the image from your camera. You probably want to explore those sliders here to adjust the exposure of the image, change colors, saturation, all of that it's here in the develop persona. So feel free to use that to adjust your images before you move forward with them into the photo persona. If you are happy with the result, you can click develop and you're back into photo persona, the default one. There's also tone mapping persona on the list. When you switch to it, you may need to wait a moment for the program to map your image. Alright, and we got some suggestions for presets already. Neutral, cold, desaturated into the black and white, dramatic, let's try that. That's nice. Okay, I can apply this. And there's also one final persona for exporting your artwork. That's the export persona when our tools are really limited, but we got those export options on the right, so we can select exactly what kind of format do we need, what sizes. We can select multiple formats in the same time. We can create slices. We can slice our big artwork into smaller pieces and export that separately as well. All right, but as I mentioned, the default one, that's photo persona. That's what we are focusing right now in this quick start tutorial. Okay, so we are done with personas. We are done with all of the tools. What else is here at the top that we need to remember? There is also a snapping option. As you may notice, my snapping is on. It was especially handy if I got some shapes. Remember those shapes? If you got shape in your project and you move it around, or you got multiple photos, smaller pictures, the snapping can be really helpful. Now, the program can detect another shape and help me to snap it to it. Take a look. It's helped me to align those elements in the picture. Because my snapping is turned on. To turn on snapping, click on the magnet icon. You can even decide what will snap. So you can customize it to your needs. There's Arrange panel as well that I never use. Why I never use the Arrange panel, you may ask? Okay, why should I use it? I can move this back or forward, right? Okay, move forward, move back, move forward, move back. So arranging is simply moving the layer up and down. So I can just grab a layer and move it up and down myself. That's why I never ever use the arrange panel. But what else I use? I use also a keyboard shortcut. So I press Command and square brackets, down and up. That's a handy shortcut. But if you forget about the shortcut, you forget that you can drag your layers around, I guess that's your last resort, the arrange panel at the top. There's also alignment panel, so if you got two elements, like I just select both of those layers, I can go to align. You can align them nicely. Very standard alignment options to the center, to the left and right, horizontally, vertically, with options for distribution as well. All right, that's all we need to know about the top of the software for now. We already learned about colors. We can switch between different colors models. I know many people prefer the wheel, so let's jump back to the wheel. Below your wheel, color wheel, you will see your layers. That's a very important part of the image. You should always check which layer is currently selected, which layer is active, because if you don't, this may cause a frustration. If you're on the wrong layer and you're painting on the wrong layer, you will not see it, or you will get a different result that you expect. So always check two things. Did I select something by mistake? Am I on the correct layer right now? If you check those two things, 90% of times you will find that, oh, I'm on the wrong layer. Oh, I select something else by mistake, so I can now deselect, or I can now move to the correct layer and continue my project. Alright, below that we can see navigator, transform, history. Next to my layers I got also channels, I got brushes, and I got stock images I can search for directly from here. So that's nice. We can change the provider if you like. Unfortunately, they stopped using Unsplash a while ago. It was available in the past. Brushes are here, but you can actually drag this out. So pull it out, and you have a floating studio around that you can customize. What if you close that by mistake? How can you get this whole window, whole option for brushes back? Simply head to Window, search for brushes and turn them on. Here it is. Now you can push it in this area and it's back here. Actually, nowadays I don't like to use a triple split. I like to put everything here. I don't use navigator, so gone. And this way I got more space for my layers. I keep it all tabs like that. But the one tab I use very often is missing here. So let's head to Window and search for Adjustments. Here it is. From here we can put some interesting adjustments on our image. If I select like black and white adjustment, for example, I will see that I got a brand new adjustment layer in my project. Most adjustment comes with sliders that will allow you to customize the final result. If I click merge, the adjustment layer will merge into the image. I don't want to do that, so undo. I can simply delete this whole adjustment layer. While we are in the layer panel, let's mention mask. The mask can temporarily hide part of the layer. Let's head to the bottom and add the mask layer. It will appear next to the miniature of your layer. It's right now white, and I can be on the image or on the mask. Take a look. It's a bit different experience. On the image, on the mask. The mask can be painted in two colors, black and white, and you can also put a gray for everything in between. If I use a gradient on that layer, black and white gradient, everything covered with the white color is still visible. Everything covered with the black color is transparent. That's how the masks work. We are masking the part of the image. I know this video may be a bit too fast for some of you guys, or maybe too slow if you got already some experience with the program. So feel free to adjust the speed using the buttons at the bottom right corner. Adjust the speed of it so it's a better learning experience. This is of course a quick start video, so I try my best to not go into too much details for certain tools or features, so we can wrap it up in around 1 hour. But we still got one more thing to cover today. I want to tell you more about blending modes. As you can see, I got a picture here. Now I will need to draw 3 shapes with different colors. So let's head to our shape tool. I will select the ellipse, and by holding shift I maintain the proportion. And right now I will show you another cool trick. If you got a shape and you move it with the move tool, it will change the location, right? But if you press Command or Control on Windows, you will not move it, but you will make exact copy of it in the new location. So just press and hold it down. Alright, now I got 3 shapes and I will change colors. I need a black, gray and white. Let's select all 3. So you can click somewhere out and make this selection just like that. I'm going to group it nicely, so I will right click in the layer section and group it. So now I got this one group with 3 shapes inside. Grouping is the great way of organizing your layer panel. You can also double tap on the layer to rename it. Alright, now we're going to explore blending modes. As you can see, right now my blending mode is set up to pass through because there's more than one object in that group. We can change it to normal, that's the default one. There's also opacity next to it. By default 100, but we can reduce that to make it semi-opaque or fully transparent, but I do not recommend using full transparency. If you plan for 0 opacity, simply switch off the layer. Alright, so that's your normal blending mode, and that's the opacity scale from 0 to 100. What if we try next blending mode, darken? Take a look. The white circle disappears completely. The gray we can see it a little bit, and the black is fully appearing here. Because those blending modes at the top will highlight dark colors. So multiply, color burn, linear burn, darken color. Take a look, the white disappeared completely. So those blending modes blend our 2 layers the way that the darker colors are highlighted. So that can be a nice way to get rid of the white color if you got sketch, for example. And the next group, next section, totally opposite. Now we're highlighting brighter colors. And of course, it's all on 100% opacity. That can be reduced in any given moment. The next group, it's kind of 2-in-1. Try to highlight both dark and bright colors, and our gray area now is invisible. Take a look, the gray one disappeared. Alright, then we got some special blending mode, very special. That's the difference. Exclusion, subtract, divide. Subtract, divide, kind of opposites, huh? And the last section just below that is for colors. So we get hue. In our case, this is no color because all of them are without color. So white, gray, and black, they share this feature. There's no color in it. So to demonstrate that, I will modify them. All right, so let's open up the group and modify each one. But take a look, right now we got in color dodge mode. Let's move it to normal. To modify the vector shape, you can click the fill color here at the top left and easily apply the color. You can also click on the new color in the color wheel while the shape is selected. That's really a quick way because we don't need to select pixels. Alright, let's go back to it. Let's try those blending modes at the bottom. Now hue, like you can see, we still see the full texture from the picture, but applying the color from the circle. Saturation, color itself, this can be a cool effect because you can see all of the details below. You're just transferring the color, you're just blending the color. Luminosity, then we got average, negation, reflect, glow, contrast negative, and erase. Erase is really special one because it will make a hole in that layer below, and it's kind of the unique blending mode for Affinity Photo. Alright, so here are our blending modes. They can be really helpful when you're blending 2 pictures together, especially if one of those pictures are like texture. Want to apply some special texture or lighting using blending modes. So we cover everything so far. You now know everything you need to know to get started with this great software. Keep in mind, sometimes it's a bit frustrating, but just keep learning, keep trying. If you are in trouble, don't forget, undo is your friend. So simply undo a few steps and try again. If something is acting weirdly, check that you got selection on. Try to deselect. Check which layer is selected currently in your project. Alright, So that's all you need to know to get started with Affinity Photo. Of course, I highly recommend you to keep learning. I have created over 100 tutorials for this great software, so feel free to explore the whole playlist later on when you need to learn about certain tools in detail, alright? So, thank you for learning with me today, and I hope I will see you on my next tutorial. Bye!